All right, so are you ready to dive back into the whole Squid Game phenomenon? I mean, seriously, remember how huge that show was back when it first came out?
Oh, yeah. How could I forget?
Uh,
It was absolutely everywhere you looked, like everyone was talking about it, trying to figure out what those crazy games would be.
right. And who could forget that creepy giant doll? I'd still get nightmares. But in all seriousness, it was a global phenomenon for a reason.
Absolutely. And all those awards, they were definitely well-deserved.
Yeah.
Hwangdonghyuk made history as the first Asian director to ever win an Emmy for outstanding directing for a drama series.
That's huge. I mean, but you know what really got to me, I think, was how the show used those like really intense high stakes games to really make you think about all the messed up things in society, like, economic inequality and stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It was like a really clever commentary on the anxieties we're all facing.
Exactly. And that ending, talk about a cliffhanger. Ever since then, the fans have been going crazy waiting for news about season 2.
It's felt like forever, hasn't it?
Seriously. But you know what? You always manage to dig up the good stuff, and these Anyang Appa articles you shared, they've finally given us a little sneak peek into what to expect.
Yeah, in the first article, it points out something interesting about the director. Even back in 2021, like right after season 1 premiered, Hwang Dong-hyuk was already feeling the heat.
Oh, I bet. The pressure must have been unbelievable after a hit like that.
Sadly, there's this quote from him where he's like, there was all this demand and pressure and love for a second season.
I think demand might be putting it mildly. It sounds like he was being pulled in every direction.
Right. But you know what I find interesting? How secretive they've been about the plot for season 2.
Totally. It's like they're playing their own game with us.
Exactly. There's this other quote from the director where he says the new season is all in his head, and that just drives the speculation wild.
It's killing me. But at least we know Gihon is back, right? Player 456 is back in action.
He is. And, the article hints that this time it's not just about him trying to survive another round of those deadly games. It says he's going to do something for the world.
Okay, now that is interesting. So he wins this horrific game, but it doesn't sound like he found any peace, He's still carrying all that trauma.
Right. It's like he's wrestling with the guilt of surviving and the horrors he witnessed. Like he almost has to do something to make things right.
Yeah, and maybe even take down the whole system that allowed those games to happen in the first place.
Exactly. He's not that same desperate guy who walked into the game anymore. He's gone through the fire, and now he's coming back with a purpose.
Okay, so the second article from Annie Young Appa, this is where my mind kind of exploded a little bit. Ready for this? They just casually drop in there that 2025 will be the final season of Squid Game.
Wait, really? Like, no big announcement, no drum roll, they just snuck that in there.
I know, right? Talk about burying the lead. So, what does that even mean for season 2? Are they going to wrap everything up in one go, or is this going to be one of those cliffhanger situations where we're left hanging until the very end?
Oh, man. It's like they're messing with us on purpose. But, okay, before we spiral down that rabbit hole, we got to talk about this December 26th release date. 3 years. 3 whole years since the games. And this article, it describes Gilhun as being fixated on taking down the organization behind it all.
I mean, think about it, right? 3 years of carrying that weight, that trauma, the guilt. It's got to do something to a person. It's not just about revenge at this point. It's like this deep-seated need to make things right.
Totally. And they mentioned that this pursuit, it leads him right back to where it all began. He has to re-enter the game to bring the whole thing down. What does that even look like, though?
Right. Is he going back in as a player? Or is he more like, I don't know, some kind of rogue agent now? Ugh, so many questions. Plus, the article mentions some familiar faces coming back. Lee Jong-jae, obviously, but also Lee Bin-hoon, Lee Ha-jin, Gongyoo. They're all in the mix.
Whoa, for real. Okay, so it's not just a nostalgia thing then. If those guys are back, it has to mean something big for the story. Especially the frontman and Jun-ho. Their characters were so mysterious. Their return has to be about digging deeper into the organization. Like, who are these people? Where did this whole thing even come from?
And where those two go, things tend to get a little messy, to say the least. But speaking of shaking things up, the article also teases a whole bunch of new characters joining the game this time around.
Oh, yeah. Spill the tea. Who are we talking about?
Well, get ready for some serious acting talent. Yim Si-won, Kang Ha-nil, Park Ga-young. These are some heavy hitters, known for their incredible range. And apparently, there are going to be some fresh faces in the mix, too.
Now, that is interesting. Having that mix of established actors and newcomers, it just adds this whole other layer of intrigue to the whole thing. Like, who are these new players? What kind of desperation would drive someone to enter these games knowing what we know now? This is where that social commentary aspect could get really interesting, you know?
You know, one thing that's really bugging me is that they haven't said a word about the actual games this time around. I mean, those twisted challenges were like a huge part of what made season 1 so
I
gripping.
know, right? The suspense is killing me.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, what could they possibly come up with that would pop the insane stuff we saw in season 1?
Seriously, those childhood games twisted into something so dark. It was brilliant. But where do they go from there?
Right. What if they take it up a notch? Instead of universal games, they tap into something more specific, like traditions unique to Korean culture.
Whoa, okay. Now that you mention it, that would be pretty intense. Imagine the added layer of mystery and suspense for viewers who aren't familiar with those traditions.
Exactly. And with this whole new cast, the potential for exploring different social dynamics is huge. I mean, we've got these big-name actors, but it's the newcomers I'm most curious about. What would push someone to enter these games knowing what we know now? That's a whole other level of desperation.
It's heavy stuff for sure. And with that final season announcement looming over everything, the stakes just got even higher. Do you think they'll actually wrap up the entire Squid Game story in season 2, or are we going to be left with more questions than answers?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will we get a definitive ending to this whole crazy Squid Game universe, or are they going to leave some loose ends dangling? Maybe even hint that the organization behind it all is even bigger and more powerful than we ever imagined.
Okay, now my head is really spinning. But you know, for all the mystery surrounding season 2, one thing's for sure. Gihun's journey is at the heart of it all.
Absolutely. He's the thread that connects everything. But you know what's really interesting? Even though those articles focused heavily on Gihun, that massive new cast list makes me think we're going to see a much broader story this time around.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Right. What if we get glimpses into how the games impact the lives of people beyond the players themselves? Like, imagine seeing it from the perspective of the families who lost loved ones, the authorities trying to piece together what's really going on, maybe even those who profit from these horrific events from the shadows.
Dude, that is a seriously mind-blowing thought. Honestly, this whole deep dive has got me even more hyped for December 26th. I can't wait to see how director Hwang pulls all of this off.
Me neither. It's going to be epic. This is going to be one for the books.
It definitely sounds like it. Well, everyone listening, make sure to mark your calendars for December 26th because Squid Game Season 2 is going to be huge. And hey, once you've had a chance to process it all, come back here and let's break it down together. This is going to be one wild ride.